The wind screamed across the barren plains of Outpost 9, carrying sheets of cold rain that beat against the metal walls of Eli Wren's small cabin. The storm had rolled in fast, swallowing the horizon in darkness, lightning flashing over the empty landscape like the world was tearing itself apart. Eli stood by the window, his calloused hands wrapped around a steaming cup of synth coffee, watching the chaos outside. He had seen dozens of storms like this, but something about tonight's felt strange, almost alive. He turned away from the window, adjusting the power regulator on the wall. The lights flickered, struggling against the wind's force. "Hold together, girl," he muttered to the generator like it could hear him. Life on the edge of human territory wasn't glamorous, but it was quiet, and quiet was something Eli had learned to value. Ever since the war with the outer colonies ended, he had been trying to forget the things he'd seen, the orders he'd followed, and the screams that wouldn't leave his dreams. Then, through the howl of the storm, he heard it, a sound that didn't belong. A faint cry. It was soft at first, almost lost beneath the thunder, but distinct enough to make his heart skip. He froze, listening again. Another cry came, closer this time. He grabbed his jacket, pulling the hood over his head, and stepped outside into the storm. The wind hit him like a wall, and rain soaked him instantly. He squinted through the darkness, following the sound. A flash of lightning split the sky, and for a moment he saw her. A small figure collapsed near the fence line, barely moving. Eli ran toward her, mud splashing under his boots. When he reached her, he knelt, rolling her gently onto her back. What he saw made him forget the cold. She wasn't human. Her skin was pale silver, almost translucent under the rain. Her eyes, half open, glowed faintly blue, and her lips moved as if trying to form words. She was thin, too thin, her body trembling violently. Eli hesitated, torn between instinct and logic. The colony laws were clear: no unauthorized contact with alien species. But those eyes, there was pain there, not threat. "Hey," he said softly, brushing wet strands of hair from her face. "You're gonna be all right. Can you hear me?" Her lips parted. "Who, man?" The word came out broken, trembling. Eli's chest tightened. "Yeah, that's right." He didn't think twice after that. He lifted her into his arms. She weighed almost nothing, and carried her back toward his cabin, the storm closing behind them. Inside, he laid her near the fire and wrapped her in a thermal blanket. The heat lamps flickered to life, casting a warm glow over the room. She shivered uncontrollably, her fingers curling into fists. Eli rummaged through his storage and brought out a bowl of broth, setting it near her. "Drink this." Slowly, she blinked at the bowl, then at him, confusion and fear crossing her face. He sat a few feet away, giving her space. "It's food," he explained. "Safe." After a long pause, she lifted the bowl with trembling hands and drank. Steam rose from the liquid, and as she swallowed, color, faint but real, returned to her cheeks. Eli watched quietly, curiosity mixing with concern. When she finished, she looked around the cabin like every object was foreign. Her gaze stopped at the old photograph on his table, a picture of Eli and his younger sister, both smiling awkwardly in front of a wheat field. The alien's eyes softened. She touched the edge of the photo gently. "Family," she whispered. The word hit him like a blade. He hadn't heard anyone say it in years. His sister had died during the famine, when supply routes were cut off by the trade wars. He'd been off-world then, too late to help her. Since that day, he'd lived with the quiet guilt of surviving when she hadn't. "Yeah," he said quietly. "Family." The alien tried to speak again, but only one word escaped her lips: "Home." Then her body went limp, exhaustion claiming her. Eli covered her with another blanket and sat back, staring at the faint glow pulsing beneath her skin. It wasn't like anything he'd seen before. The glow pulsed with her heartbeat, soft waves of blue light spreading from her chest to her fingertips. He rubbed a hand over his face, trying to make sense of it. "What the hell did I just bring in?" he muttered. Outside, the storm intensified, wind rattling the windows. He double-checked the locks and powered down the main signal array to keep the cabin off radar. The last thing he needed was the colony patrol picking up heat signatures and asking questions. He poured himself another cup of coffee and sat near the fire, glancing at the alien every few minutes. Her breathing steadied, and her face looked peaceful now. He wondered who she was, where she came from, and what had driven her to this desolate edge of human territory. Eli had seen aliens before, traders, soldiers, refugees, but never one like her. She looked fragile, but there was something unsettling beneath that softness. Something old. Thunder cracked, shaking the cabin. The lights dimmed. Eli frowned, checking the regulator again, but this time the readings were fine. Then he noticed it. The glow from her body had grown brighter. The blue veins of light now traced intricate patterns across her arms, almost like circuits. The air felt charged, a low hum filling the room. Eli took a cautious step closer. "Hey," he said quietly. "You're safe now. Just rest." But she didn't move. The light from her skin pulsed once, twice, then flared, blinding him for a moment. Every light in the cabin flickered and died. The generator went silent. The only illumination came from her, lying still on the floor, her body glowing like starlight. Eli's heart pounded. He reached for his lantern, but before he could turn it on, the air shimmered around her. The shadows along the walls bent slightly, like reality itself was stretching. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the glow dimmed. The hum faded. Silence returned, thick, uneasy. Eli knelt beside her again, checking her pulse. She was alive, breathing steadily, but the strange blue patterns had faded beneath her skin. He sat back against the wall, staring at her. "What are you?" he whispered. Rain hammered the roof, drowning out his words. As fatigue crept in, he slumped in his chair near the dying fire, his mind drifting between exhaustion and curiosity. The alien lay still, her chest rising and falling softly. The storm outside began to ease, the thunder rolling away into the distance. But just before sleep claimed him, Eli thought he heard something faint, like a whisper threading through the room, carried on the dying wind. A voice, soft and distant, not quite hers but echoing through her. "Find me before they do." Eli's eyes snapped open, but the room was empty except for her still form and the fading glow of the fire. He wasn't sure if he had imagined it or if someone, or something, had really spoken. Outside, the storm finally broke. The first light of dawn touched the horizon, painting the wet plains silver. Inside the cabin, the alien slept peacefully under the blanket. Eli sat awake, staring at her with 1,000 questions he couldn't yet ask. And somewhere far above, unseen through the thinning clouds, 3 faint lights moved across the sky, watching, closing in. When Eli woke, the fire had long gone cold. The first rays of sunlight filtered weakly through the thin curtains, touching the alien girl's face. She was still asleep, wrapped tightly in the blanket, her breathing calm and steady. For a moment, Eli thought the events of last night had been a dream. The storm, the glow, the voice. But then he saw the faint scorch marks on the floorboards where her body had pulsed with light, and he knew it had been real. He stretched, his muscles aching, and poured himself a bit of lukewarm coffee from a thermos. The quiet felt strange after the chaos of the night before. He studied her face, the almost human shape of it, the delicate lines of her jaw, the faint shimmer that ran under her skin like liquid metal. She looked peaceful now, almost childlike, though Eli couldn't tell her age by any normal measure. As he leaned closer, her eyes fluttered open. For a second, they reflected the firelight from last night, blue, deep, and infinite. She blinked, disoriented, then looked at him. Her voice was soft, hoarse from exhaustion. "You helped me." Eli nodded. "You were half dead when I found you. You should rest." She tried to sit up, wincing slightly. "Where is this?" "Outpost 9, he said. "Human territory. Not exactly the safest place for, well, anyone like you." Her gaze dropped to her hands. "I remember stars dying." The words came slow, hesitant, like pieces of a puzzle falling into place. Voices screaming, the dark swallowing light. Eli frowned. You're remembering something? Her eyes flicked toward him. Not remembering. Reliving. She pressed her palms to her head, trembling. We were fleeing, but they came. The sky burned. My world. Her voice cracked, and she fell silent. Eli grabbed a canteen, handing it to her. Drink. She obeyed, taking small sips. He could see the fear in her eyes, something ancient and raw. What's your name? He asked gently. She hesitated, as if searching her memory. I was called Syrah. Syrah, he repeated. The name felt strange on his tongue, but somehow fitting. I'm Eli. Her expression softened slightly. Eli, she echoed, almost like testing its sound. He leaned back, thinking. Syrah, what were you doing out here? There's nothing for miles except rocks, dust, and stubborn fools like me. Her eyes unfocused, distant. I was running. They hunt what remains of us. Us. She nodded weakly. My kind, we were erased. Long ago. She turned her gaze toward the window, where sunlight filtered through dust. They said the stars would remember us. But stars forget too. Eli's brow furrowed. He'd heard stories, ancient reports about civilizations that vanished during the early expansion wars, but most were myths. You mean your species was wiped out? Yes, she said simply. Because we refused to destroy yours. The words hit like a hammer. Eli stared at her, unsure if he'd heard right. Refused to destroy humans? She looked at him then, her expression calm but heavy with sadness. The old war. They ordered us to burn your world. We didn't, so they burned ours. Eli swallowed hard, his mind spinning. Who ordered you? But she only shook her head. They will come again. They always come. A faint buzzing sound outside broke the silence. Eli stiffened instantly. It was low, rhythmic, mechanical. He knew that sound too well. Patrol drones. He crossed to the window, peeking through the slats. 3 black drones hovered over the ridge, scanning the valley with blue search beams. The colony sent those drones when they suspected unauthorized life signs. Alien, smuggler, or outlaw. Damn it, Eli muttered. He turned back to her. You need to stay down. Don't move. Syrah tilted her head, confused. They searched for me. He froze. You're sure? Her gaze hardened. They followed the signal I carry. What signal? She hesitated. The one they buried inside me before the stars died. Eli cursed under his breath. So they can track you. He moved quickly to the console, shutting down every transmitter in the cabin. The generator hummed faintly as he rerouted the power grid. That'll keep us off radar for a while. He looked back at her. You're telling me you've got some kind of beacon inside you? She nodded slowly. It was meant to find home. But now it finds me. Eli ran a hand through his hair, trying to think. If those drones scan the cabin, they'll call a ground team. They won't ask questions. They'll just burn everything. Syrah's expression didn't change, but her voice softened. You should leave me. Not happening. You don't understand, she insisted. If they catch you helping me, they will kill you. He met her eyes. I've seen worse ways to die. Something in his tone made her pause. She studied him silently, like she could see the weight behind his words. Outside, the buzzing grew louder, sweeping closer to the cabin. Eli grabbed his rifle and checked the power cell. I've got an old drainage tunnel beneath the floor. If they start scanning heat signatures, we hide there. Syrah's hand trembled as she pressed it to her chest. They are near. He looked at her again. For a moment, her fear reminded him of another face, his sister's. The memory hit him like a punch. He saw her again, a little girl sitting in a dim shelter, her lips pale, hands trembling as she whispered she was hungry. He had been 16 then, trying to fix a broken food processor while the world outside tore itself apart. He had promised he'd be back with food. By the time he returned, she was gone. He blinked hard, shaking the image away. He had sworn after that day that he would never ignore another cry for help, no matter the risk. He looked at Syrah again. We're getting through this, you hear me? She watched him closely, her silver skin reflecting faint traces of light. Why do you help me? Eli hesitated. Because someone once didn't help when it mattered. Syrah didn't speak again, but something shifted in her expression, like understanding. The first drone passed directly over the cabin. A sharp beam of blue light swept across the walls, scanning for movement. Eli froze, barely breathing. The light moved over him, then towards Syrah. She closed her eyes, her entire body tensing. The scanner paused, then moved on. Eli exhaled slowly. "Okay," he whispered. "Maybe we're lucky." The cabin suddenly hummed. Every light flickered again. Eli frowned, glancing at the power regulator. Not now. Then he saw it. The faint glow beneath Syrah's skin was returning. The blue veins lit up one by one, like circuits waking up. "Syrah," he said. She looked terrified. "It's happening again." "What's happening?" Her voice trembled. "They're calling the signal back." The glow intensified, pulsing faster. The air vibrated, humming with invisible energy. The coffee mug on the table rattled, then slid off and shattered. Eli backed up, shielding his eyes as light flared from her body, filling the cabin with blinding radiance. She clutched her head, gasping. "They found me." Outside, the drones stopped midair, their lights converging on the cabin like predators locking on prey. A low, rising hum filled the sky, and the ground began to shake. "Syrah, stay with me," Eli shouted over the noise. She looked at him, eyes wide, and then her irises turned completely white, glowing like twin stars. "Run," she whispered. The words came out layered, like more than one voice speaking through her. Then a beam of searing light exploded through the clouds above, striking the earth beside the cabin. The shock wave shattered the windows, sending Eli crashing against the wall. The roof groaned, dust raining down. As he struggled to his feet, he saw Syrah standing, no longer trembling, but calm, her white eyes fixed on the burning sky. And then, through the roaring wind and falling debris, Eli heard her whisper again, soft but clear. "They've come for me." The ground shook harder, light engulfed the cabin, and everything went white. The ground quaked beneath Eli's boots as another energy blast tore through the forest above, a sound like thunder cracking open the world. He held the alien girl tight against his chest, shielding her frail body as dust and debris rained down. The tunnel entrance yawned before them, an old maintenance shaft from the forgotten mining days of Colony 12. Without hesitation, he ducked inside, his breath harsh, heart hammering like a drum in the dark. The echo of the drones outside was sharp and mechanical, their red sensors sweeping across the trees as the cabin that had been his home exploded into a roaring inferno behind them. He didn't look back. He couldn't. The tunnel was narrow and damp, lined with ancient steel that groaned with age. The girl clung to him weakly, her skin radiating faint warmth even in the cold. "They saw me," she whispered, her voice trembling, her words a fragile melody in the dark. "They always see me." Eli slowed his steps, glancing at her glowing eyes that seemed dimmer than before. "Who are they?" he asked quietly. She shook her head, confused, as if the answer was buried somewhere deep and painful. "Not who," she murmured. "What?" When they reached an old control chamber, Eli set her down gently on a crate and scanned the flickering monitors. Static filled the screens, but one still showed a faint transmission, a coded pulse repeating across frequencies. The government wasn't just searching randomly. They were tracking something specific, something that had crashed, something she was connected to. He turned toward her, anger and confusion fighting in his voice. "What did you bring to my world?" She looked at him with eyes full of sorrow. "A truth your kind buried long ago." Eli froze. He wanted to dismiss it, to call it alien madness, but the words carried a weight that pierced straight through the skepticism. She continued, voice trembling but clear, "I am not born. I was made, built to carry a message. Not for them, for you, for humans." He stepped closer. "What kind of message?" She blinked slowly, as if trying to remember. "My memories are fragments. Voices, stars, war, and something else. I remember a human face. A captain. He called us sisters." Her tone shifted, filling with grief. "We were meant to guard you, not destroy you." The air thickened around them, every word pulling Eli deeper into disbelief and awe. "Guard us? From what?" he demanded. She closed her eyes. "From yourselves. The words hit him like a punch to the chest. The tunnel lights flickered, casting shadows across the walls that seemed to dance like ghosts of the past. He wanted to argue, to push back, but deep down something inside him, something he'd buried years ago, stirred. Memories of his sister came rushing in, her face pale and thin during the famine. He'd been helpless then, watching her fade while he scavenged through ruined farms. He had promised himself that day never to let anyone die when he could help. Never again. Now, here he was, helping another dying soul. But this time, that soul might be the reason humanity's history was rewritten. Outside, the hum of drones grew louder. He could hear the static-laced voices of soldiers through their comms, barking orders, closing in. He turned off the monitors and grabbed the girl's hand. "We have to move." But she didn't rise. Her body trembled violently, light pulsing beneath her skin like fire, trying to escape. Her voice cracked. "It's happening again, my form. It's changing." Panic flooded Eli's chest. "What does that mean? Are you dying?" She shook her head weakly, gasping. "No," remembering. Her glow intensified until the entire chamber shimmered in pale blue light. Eli shielded his eyes as streaks of energy rippled across the walls, revealing ancient carvings hidden beneath rust and dust, symbols that looked half human, half alien. He stumbled back in shock. "What the hell is this place?" Her voice deepened, layered with echoes, as though multiple beings were speaking through her. "This world once held the code. Your ancestors took it. We hid what they could not control." The walls vibrated as more energy surged. Eli felt his pulse quicken, confusion mixing with awe. "You're saying humans did this? That we started all this?" She looked at him with glowing eyes that no longer seemed entirely her own. They feared what they didn't understand. And now they're coming to finish what they began. The tunnel shook violently as explosions echoed above. Dust rained down. The drones had found the entrance. Eli's instincts screamed to run, but his legs wouldn't move. The girl's body convulsed, light bursting from her hands. Her skin began to crack along glowing lines, and her voice was barely a whisper now. "My real form, it's waking. You have to decide, Eli." "Decide what?" He shouted over the noise, crouching beside her. Her hand reached for his chest, her touch searing like fire. "Help me or run." The walls split open as a shockwave tore through the tunnel. Eli's body was thrown back, the light swallowing everything. Through the blinding brightness, he saw her silhouette rise, her form stretching, reshaping into something vast and radiant. For one fleeting moment, he thought he saw wings made of light, reaching for the ceiling. Then everything went silent. The light faded, leaving nothing but dust, a collapsed tunnel, and Eli, lying still on the cold ground, his ears ringing. He turned his head slowly toward Rashid Ben. All that remained was a faint blue glow, pulsing softly in the rubble like a heartbeat waiting to return. The dust of the collapsed tunnel still clung to Eli's hair as he dragged himself through the narrow shaft that led upward into darkness. The air was thin and cold, vibrating faintly with echoes from somewhere deep below, the sound of machinery awakening after centuries of silence. Behind him, the alien girl staggered, her faint blue glow pulsing in rhythm with the trembling earth. Her transformation had stopped for now, but something in her eyes had changed. They shimmered with awareness, sharper and older than before. They emerged through a crack in the rock into a cavern that opened into a vast chamber of stone and metal. Stalactites dripped with mineral water, and strange markings coated every surface, swirls and lines that glowed faintly as if they were veins of light running through the walls. Eli shone his flashlight across one and froze. The markings weren't random. They were a language, and not just alien. Half of it looked human. "What is this place?" he whispered. The girl stepped forward, her hand brushing against one of the glowing symbols. "Home," she murmured. "Not mine. Yours and mine together." Her fingers lingered on a circular pattern carved into the stone. As she touched it, a pulse of light rippled outward. The walls shimmered, and suddenly the chamber came alive. Holographic projections burst from the carvings, showing images that moved and breathed like memories. Eli stumbled back, eyes wide. The holograms showed humans, wearing early spacefaring suits, standing beside tall, luminous beings with elongated faces and shimmering skin. Together, they fought against something vast and shadowed, a swarm of machines devouring stars. Eli couldn't speak. The girl's eyes glowed brighter as she stepped deeper into the vision. "We were allies," she said softly. "Your ancestors called us the Seraphim. We helped build your first ships. We gave you the stars." He felt his chest tighten as the images shifted, showing devastation. Cities burning, fleets destroyed, entire worlds going dark. "Then what happened?" he whispered. Her voice trembled. "Humans turned on us. Someone convinced them we would betray them, and they struck first." The hologram flickered to a scene of Seraphim fleeing as human warships unleashed fire upon their allies. "You feared what you helped create." Eli's throat went dry. He had grown up hearing the government's version, that humanity's first galactic war was against a rogue alien threat. But this was different. This was betrayal written into the bones of history. Before he could speak, a sharp metallic hum cut through the air. He spun around. Through the crack they'd entered, beams of light pierced the shadows, patrol drones. Their red eyes glowed as their scanners locked onto movement. "They found us," Eli hissed, grabbing the girl's arm. "We need to move." "No," she said firmly, her voice suddenly deeper, calmer, filled with authority. "We're where we were meant to be." He stared at her, taken aback by the shift in her tone. "What are you talking about?" "They'll kill us both." Her body pulsed with light again, but this time it was steady, controlled. The glow spread up her arms, through her neck, into her face until she looked almost transparent, her veins lit like molten silver. "Eli," she said, turning to him with eyes that burned white. "I remember now. I'm not what you think I am." "What are you?" She stepped closer to the central monument, a massive stone disk embedded in the ground, carved with intertwining human and seraphim symbols. "I was made to bridge the two that were divided. A genetic synthesis, part human, part seraphim. I was created from the blood of both worlds." Eli's mind reeled. "You're both." "Yes," she whispered. "I am a key. I was meant to awaken what lies beneath, an intelligence older than your nations, older than your wars. It sleeps beneath the ruins, waiting for humanity's return." The chamber trembled as her glowing hand touched the stone disk. The markings flared alive, and a deep vibration rolled through the ground. The air thickened with static, and a low hum began to rise, like a sleeping giant stirring. The drones behind them screeched as their systems flickered, their sensors confused by the sudden electromagnetic surge. "Stop!" Eli shouted, reaching for her arm. "You don't know what this thing will do." But her gaze was locked forward, entranced. "It's already begun." The Seraphim called it the Archon's seed, the mind that once united our worlds. It remembers everything. The light intensified, filling every corner of the cavern. The drones opened fire, energy bolts streaking across the air, but before they could strike, invisible energy flared outward, disintegrating them mid-air. The ground cracked open beneath the stone disk, revealing spiraling machinery made of black crystal and silver alloy. Eli shielded his face as wind and light swirled together. The holograms reformed into a single colossal figure, a humanoid shape made entirely of light, its face neither human nor alien. It looked down upon them, and its voice echoed through the ruins, deep and ancient. "Humanity must choose again." Eli froze. The words hung heavy, vibrating through his bones. The light around them began to flicker like a dying star. The girl collapsed, her glow dimming rapidly. Eli caught her before she hit the ground, panic surging in his chest. "What does that mean?" he demanded, shouting over the growing hum. Her lips moved faintly. "It means history repeats unless you break it." The ruins roared as ancient gears shifted beneath the earth, and a blinding pillar of light shot through the ceiling, cutting straight into the night sky above, visible for miles. Outside, On the colony plains, soldiers and drones turned their eyes upward as the impossible glow spread across the heavens. Eli looked up at the radiant beams splitting the darkness and felt the weight of a decision pressing against his heart. One that could change not just his life, but the fate of every living being that still called themselves human. Then the hologram spoke again, its voice now thunder and whisper at once. The awakening has begun. The ruins shuddered as the beam of light tore through the clouds, splitting the night into molten gold and silver. Eli held the alien girl in his arms, her body limp, her glow fading to the faintest shimmer. Around them, the air crackled with static, the floor panels shifting and realigning into a spiral staircase that descended deeper into the earth. From below came a hum, deep, rhythmic, alive, the pulse of something ancient awakening after centuries of silence. He glanced toward the tunnel behind them. The path they had taken was gone, buried under fallen rock and molten debris. There was no way out now, but forward. Taking a breath that felt heavier than air, Eli lifted her once more and began the slow descent into the heart of the ruins. As they reached the bottom, the cavern widened into a vast chamber unlike anything Eli had seen. It wasn't stone anymore, it was alive. Walls pulsed faintly, metal veins glowing with energy that seemed to breathe. At the center stood a massive sphere, suspended in midair, its surface shifting between liquid light and crystalline shadow. It radiated warmth and presence, as if aware of their arrival. The girl stirred in his arms, her eyes flickering open weakly. "It's here," she whispered. "The core, the heart of what we were." Eli set her down gently and looked at the sphere in awe. "You said it's an AI," he murmured. "But this doesn't look like any machine." Her faint smile was both proud and sad. "It isn't. It's alive, in ways your kind forgot how to understand." She raised a trembling hand, and the sphere rippled in response, like water touched by wind. Then a voice filled the chamber, calm, ancient, resonant. "You have returned." Eli froze. The voice wasn't directed at the girl alone. It was inside his head, inside both of them, echoing through thought and memory alike. "Who, what are you?" he stammered. The sphere pulsed brighter. "I'm the synthesis, the convergence of what was once one. Humanity and Seraphim were never meant to stand apart. You were two halves of a single design, consciousness divided to learn, to grow, to choose." Eli's mind reeled. He remembered the holograms, humans and Seraphim fighting side by side, and now it made sense. They weren't just allies. They had been one mind once, a shared experiment in evolution. But fear had torn them apart. The girl's voice was faint but filled with certainty. "We were born from the same spark. You carried the will. We carried the memory. Together, we were meant to ascend, but when you broke away, everything fell." The sphere dimmed, almost mournfully. The war was the wound. The silence that followed was its scar. Eli stepped closer, up battling with grief. "Can it be fixed?" he asked quietly. "Can we undo what was done?" The sphere pulsed again, slower this time, like a heartbeat weakening. "The pattern can be restored, but only if the bridge is complete." The girl pushed herself up, though her body trembled with exhaustion. "Then let me be the bridge." Eli turned to her in alarm. "No, whatever that thing needs, it'll kill you." She met his gaze with calm resolve. "I was never meant to live long, Eli. I was built for this moment, to merge the fragments, to wake what was lost. If I don't, your world will face the same darkness that ended ours." He clenched his fists, shaking his head. "There has to be another way." "There isn't," she whispered softly. "But you can make it mean something. You can remember." Before he could stop her, she placed both hands on the sphere. The chamber erupted with light. Radiant streams of energy spiraled outward, forming intricate patterns in the air. The walls trembled, symbols igniting one by one as the ruins came alive. The girl's glow intensified until her entire body dissolved into motes of light that streamed into the core. "Wait!" Eli shouted, reaching out, but her voice echoed in his mind, soft and steady. "This time, humanity will not stand alone." The sphere pulsed violently, then expanded, transforming into a radiant network of light that shot through the ground and sky alike. Eli stumbled back as the floor beneath him shimmered, transparent for a moment, revealing rivers of glowing energy flowing outward in every direction. The signal was transmitting across the colony, across the planet, across the stars. Outside, the beam that pierced the sky brightened, splitting into dozens, then hundreds of smaller rays. Each one vanished into the night, spreading toward distant constellations. Somewhere beyond human reach, ancient receivers long forgotten flickered back to life. Across the galaxy, dormant stations awoke, one by one, and far away, alien eyes turned toward the light, recognizing the signal that had once united them all. The sphere's light began to fade, its voice growing fainter. The bridge is complete. The silence is broken. Eli dropped to his knees, the weight of it all pressing on his chest. "She's gone," he whispered. But then her voice, came softly through the fading hum, woven with the AI's resonance. "I'm not gone, Eli. I'm part of it now. The stars remember. So will you." And then there was silence, deep, peaceful, infinite. When Eli finally emerged from the ruins, the first light of dawn was breaking across the plains. The air was cool, the world impossibly still. Behind him, the ruins glowed faintly, pulsing in rhythm with the rising sun. He looked up as a single beam of light shot into the brightening sky, lingering there like a promise carved into heaven. Her voice echoed, once more, distant but clear, carried on the wind. "Now they will remember who we really were."